we don't have a lot of revenue. We're not a big salary place. But what was important was to provide a conducive work environment in which we built understanding of our mission, loyalty to the work we do, high productivity, and the group worked as a whole. We did a lot of work and did some fabulous things. Wendy and I were talking about that, and then like everything else, the pandemic hits, and you have to pivot in everything you're doing. So now all of us are dealing with a workforce in the home environment and a workforce that we don't necessarily know how to manage. Our workforce is the first link to our customers. Our customers have to trust us in this different work environment. As such, my employees have to trust me, and I have to continue that loyalty, that trust, that belief in us, even though we're now distanced. That led to say, Wendy, can we pivot and talk about this issue? Because I believe the only way for me to keep my customers, the most important thing right now, keeping my customers, keeping my business, is my team members believing and continuing that trust link to the customer. And so that was sort of the concept that I had, the conversation I began with Wendy. I ate too many Panera scones as Wendy and I would talk and visit over and over. So I'm going to turn it over to Wendy Merrill and let Wendy facilitate this conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Angie. Good morning, everybody. Just a quick technical note. I see lots and lots of screens without video on. So if you do have video capability, see if you can switch it on so I can see everybody's smiling face. It makes it a little bit more interactive. So my name is Wendy Merrill, and my company is Strategy Horse Consulting Group. And I am so honored to be here today to talk about this. This is a super important issue that's near and dear to my heart. Trust is the lifeblood of any business, and we know our success is determined by whether or not our clients and customers trust us. But what about our people? So many of us invest in external marketing to convey our value to potential customers and clients, and also to the community in general. But we often miss out on the best opportunity, which is our brand ambassadors at home, close to home, which is our team. Employee engagement has long been a challenge for employers. It's not just about retention, but it's also about empowering our people to effectively convey our mission and represent us properly when interacting with our customers and clients. This has never been more important than now during this horrible pandemic. And with everyone so spread out, how can employers ensure that their teams are consistently engaged enough to provide the customer experience that's so important to us as business owners and leaders, and so crucial to maintaining their trust? So this morning, we'll discuss ways in which we can provide the support our people need to remain invested in our company's success amidst the uncertainty of COVID-19. I'd like to warmly welcome our panel of experts. We have Brenda McChristen, Angela Murphy, Kelly Mitchell, Rebecca Tafe, and Roy White. Thanks for joining us this morning. I'd like to begin by asking how some of you have remained closely connected to your teams throughout this crisis. Do you have systems in place to ensure that each employee feels seen and appreciated for their efforts and also secure in their jobs? I'd like to throw this question out to Angela to start. Hi, Angela.
Great, thanks. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. This is great. I think the thing that has been helping our team the most is, quite honestly, the Zoom calls and video, and making sure that you're able to see each other and check in every day. I've long had a standing daily check-in with my team at 8 a.m. every morning, and we've been doing that on video. Even if you're in your robe, you're getting on and you're starting the day with your team, and we're understanding what each person is doing, etc. The other thing that I found really, really helpful right now is to just have an open Zoom call, like for a couple of hours every day. I'm on Zoom and my team can check in with me at any point. They can just join, they can go, they can come back. We have Slack channels that we use to talk or communicate at any point. But the Zoom call is really great because I'm just sitting here, I'm doing my work, and if they need me, they just pop into my meeting and there they are, and we touch base. So for me, that's just a really awesome way to make sure that I have a pulse and that they know that they can reach me anytime. That's the most important thing. When you're a leader in a company, you have to make sure that through a crisis like this, you're checking in with your people, and for them to know that you care and you want to know how they're doing and how they're managing, and making sure that they understand that they have to balance work and family. I think we all probably have seen a lot of in this time when we're all in our home offices, we don't often take breaks and we wind up working until late into the evening or very early in the day. And that's so unhealthy. So just encouraging people to make sure that they're getting out, taking a break, getting away has been really helpful. And I know my team appreciates it and they pay it forward into their own teams.
So, question about that is: have you found a way to measure how successful that those methods are? Like, checking to see, okay, the check-ins, and so is this really making a difference to you? I mean, is there a way to measure that?
I just ask. I mean, I've often said, like, you guys tell me if these daily check-ins are not helpful for you, and by absolutely they really are, because they keep each other in the loop of what's going on when so many things are happening and people are running in different directions. To know that, oh, there's a meeting about this today, or I'm working on this, or I have this call scheduled. It really is helpful, and I just ask, and my team is very open and honest, and if they need something different, they let me know. If I have a day where nobody comes into my meeting, I'm thinking they're all good. And I'll check in at the end of the day and I'll say, hey, hope everybody had a good day. It's really just about communication. That's the most important thing right now.
Thank you. Rebecca, do you have anything to add to this?
Nodding my head over here. I think the consistent team communication is so important. And so for us, we were really fortunate. We have always had a virtual component. So we had an in-person component in our office, but we also had a virtual component. So we kind of had all the systems in place and we were really lucky. And so we have a Tuesday morning team meeting where for an hour and a half, first we do a check-in. It used to be wins. Now we're just like, hey, how's everybody doing? And we've taken probably 30 minutes of that hour and a half call for everybody to go around and talk about how they're doing, how they're feeling, and share a win if they would like. Sometimes the wins are very small these days, and usually related to the home front. But it really gives everybody a voice to be heard. And then in those calls, I, as the owner, am really being very transparent of where we are. I'm like, hey, here's where we are. This is the business that we have. Here's how I'm shifting. Here's how I'm pivoting. Here's what we're looking into in terms of some of these federal loans or grants. And I'm being really upfront with that. We have a small team, so that may be easier for us than some. We have 8 of us. And so for me, I've found that me being very transparent gives the team a sense of comfort. I've had also a lot of one-on-one calls with people saying, how are we doing? How is the work going? And I found the more forthcoming you can be with people and say, we're looking into this. I will be able to get back to you by X date. I think they've really appreciated that. And actually this morning, I actually just sent a bunch of voice audio texts to team. And I just said, hey, I'm thinking about you. If you need anything, please reach out for a phone call, because the majority of us are juggling young kids at home. So we get lots of cameos in our calls. And that's been a part of our culture, actually, because we've had that virtual component. We always joke, there have always been babies and dogs and cats in our Zoom calls. And we talk about that that's okay, or if somebody's on mute and the baby, we're like, can we just see the baby really quick? And that provides, I think, a sense of, again, comfort, that people, like, everybody knows people are juggling, and I think it allows people to be very authentic. And I think when people have that feeling, they're going to do their jobs really well. When they feel heard, when they feel appreciated, when they're understood, they're really going to step up to the plate. And I will tell you, I've had so many other things I've had to do over the last 3 to 4 weeks as an owner. They're knocking it out of the park when it in terms of managing clients. And so and the other thing is I am consistently thanking them on the calls. I'm saying, hey, this was what I was working on this week. And thank you all for doing all of these things that you did. And I don't think at this point, I don't think you can thank your teams enough and recognize them enough for what they're doing, because it's hard. It's hard with managing everything in this new environment. And so we really try to do a lot of that acknowledgement. And then on the technical side, we follow up. We have smaller meetings. Our print and our digital team will run down things on a Thursday. So we meet on Tuesdays and we meet on Thursdays just to make sure everything is on track. But what I found so effective is that transparent communication with team, recognizing them for when they're doing well, and then trusting them to do the work. Yes, I love it. I love seeing that. It's great. It's perfect. And I think that's part of this new world that is going to be really lovely. I'm going to go on mute after this because I'm sure you will see a little head pop in behind me and ask me when we're going to start school. So, but again, I think I just can't, my team has just, they're a wonderful team, but I have leaned on them so much the last few weeks, and their work has really been tremendous.
Thank you. I think just as a sort of side comment here, Angie, when we first started, you said you've realized that video is the next best thing to being in person. And I actually feel like, even though we're not in front of each other, I feel like these video connections are deeply, deeply personal. And in many ways, even more personal than when we meet for coffee at Panera over scones, because we see where we live. We see us, in our stretchy pants potentially, or whatever you got going on down there. We see our cats and our dogs and our kids and our spouses and all these different things. And I feel like that bonds us more as humans and as colleagues. So I think that if there's, there are a few little silver linings to this crisis, and I actually feel like that's part of this as well. And I think it's really important to do what you're doing, for example, Rebecca and Angela, to lead that effort and to keep it personal and keep it consistent, and provide that leadership and really, frankly, a sense of security for your people. So my next question is, and we kind of touched upon this a little bit, what steps have you taken to try and raise employee morale, as this is a super important part of consistently providing customers with value? And I want to throw this one out to Kelly. We can't hear you.
Oh. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, great. Sorry about that. Thank you. Good morning. Like Rebecca and Angela, we've implemented a lot of things. One of the things that we've implemented that's working really, really well for us is Microsoft Teams. And one of the ways that I'm encouraging all of my team members to really kind of stay connected and tap into each other is we created kind of different chat rooms on Teams. And so we have kind of these social little chat rooms that we've created, and anybody can at any time go into those chat rooms and throw out personal pictures or things that they might be working on and they need a little bit more support from someone. So it's a really collaborative type of format for the team members to be able to kind of stay connected. And in terms of morale, I think having them be able to connect with each other at any time during the day helps them. And, my concern, because we are consultants, we hear an echo. You guys hear an echo in the background? Yeah.
I think I got it.
Okay. And so my concern really, and when it comes to morale, is that my consultants are in front of their computer all day long, and either on Zoom calls all day long or, sending out emails all day long. And sometimes I get a little concerned about that. So I try to reach out. I touch base with them several times throughout the day, whether it's to the chat room, whether it's through just text messages, and letting them know, like Rebecca said, that I'm here. If there's anything that they need, that they can certainly reach out. I also encourage everyone to step away from their work throughout the day. It's okay to get up and go out for a walk with your dog in the middle of the day. And I think that encourages them to kind of, step away, maybe let some of the stress, relieve some of that stress, and then come back, and then get back to work. And so I do touch base with them. I encourage them to do that. If I find that someone isn't doing that, I again encourage that, and I kind of sometimes maybe force them to do it, because I do want them to stay engaged. I want them to be productive, but I also don't want them to be overly stressed. And so I think the communication is helping. I think the technology is helping. And then, of course, my willingness and my, offering of being available to everyone at any time, day or morning, is helping as well.
I think there's also, I think what you're doing by encouraging them to go outside and take a break is huge, because I'm sure, I mean, I don't know about your company, but a lot of employees are very nervous, understandably so these days, about job security. And so many of them probably feel afraid of not, overly committing or seeming to overly commit. So I think that as leaders, it's super important to do what you're doing, Kelly, and say, it's okay, please go outside, get some air, be a human being, grab a cup of coffee or an adult beverage, and
Right.
live. I think that's really important.
Yeah, and I wanted to add one more thing, and I think it goes back to what Anna said as well. It's about this trust factor. I think that, being open and honest about my communication with them, about what is happening, what's happening with the company, where are we, what are my plans to ensure that everyone is secure, and continuing that line of communication also helps with morale, because it's continuing to build on that trust. And allowing them to ask me very honest and pointed questions about things that they're concerned about, and in return, answering with some real honest answers for them. So.
Great, thank you. Does anybody have anything else to add to that? No? Okay.
I can add.
Roy, go ahead.
Yeah, so one of the things, just to go off of Kelly, we have been using Microsoft Teams as well, but one of the things that I implemented in the last couple of weeks was we used Microsoft Forms to create a form for a question and answer session with management. What are your fears? What are you dealing with? How can we help you, and things like that. And our HR component, she's awesome. She turned around and said, why don't we just answer everybody's messages, questions all together? And we've been able to do that. And I think, everybody's giving us positive feedback. And like Kelly said, it boosts the morale. As long as they know that we're transparent and we're communicating with them, that kind of eases the anxiety and the fears of job security or what's going on in the world and things like that, because there's a lot of opinions going on, and and the government's shooting out a lot of information, but if you're not getting it from the top correctly, it kind of could scare you. And I think that's one of the positive things that we've been able to do with the forums, just allowing them to go in and write, ask the question, and we take that question and put it in an email to everybody. This is the question that was asked, this is the answer to it, and things like that. That way we don't get multiple questions, and if they need to go back to it, yes, this is what we said, and management's on one accord. And if you have more than one manager, making sure that you all are on the same page is, really, really, really a strong suit right now, because they need to know that, you're unified at the top, so they can be unified as your employee.
Great, thank you, Roy. So what type of training or support are you giving your employees to better equip them to manage customer service and client relationships during this very stressful time? In other words, are employees receiving guidance on how to properly address customer concerns and anxiety? I want to throw this one out to Brenda, please, to start.
I thought you were going to do that.
What?
Am I on? Am I unmuted?
You are. You're echoing a little.
Is that better?
Yep.
Okay. So, like the others, some of the things that we're doing, and I have to say, on the morale issue and the customer service issue. They are actually already, they're professionals. They're professional HR folks. So they're already accustomed to managing employer fears, employee relations issues. So it's business, it's kind of business as usual. And one of the things that I think is really, really helpful is our group they're used to routine. And so when we can show them that we can continue to do what we're doing, that's been really, really helpful. Now, some of our folks, and we're a small team too, several of them work on site. And so now that they cannot work on client site, they are still communicating on a consistent and regular basis. For example, we have Amy works from, I want to say sun up to sundown. We make her take a break, but at the same time, she's in touch with each of those clients several times a day. The others work on projects because we provide 3 levels of service. One is compensation analysis, that's project related. So they don't have to be in an office particularly, they go in to report. The other is leadership development, and that is a quasi, I want to say a quasi on-site but off-site project, and then there's the operational based support. So they're accustomed to the routine, so I tell them, hey, if we can continue the routine that we've had, let's continue to do that, because they find that the disruption is more, how should I say it? The disruption produces the anxiety. The other thing we did was we had Matthew, our phenomenal CFO, actually do a presentation for the team to let them know honestly where we are financially. What does this mean for their jobs? We have assured he, not me, because they would expect me to be the cheerleader, but he is assuring them, hey guys, we've been doing some really great things, and we're providing great service, and guess what? We don't have to do layoffs. Feel comfortable that if this goes on for another year, you'll be here, and beyond. So when they heard it from our CFO, they were like, oh, okay, great. So that gave them a little bit of sense of relief. The other things that we're doing to keep them engaged, one of our teammates had a birthday yesterday, and we surprised her with a happy birthday song, and each of us lit a candle and saying happy birthday to her, right? Because we couldn't do that in person. We couldn't give her a cake. We couldn't send her anything, which is typically what we would do. And so it really moved her because she felt isolated, and she felt like, oh, nobody, it was my birthday and nobody recognized that. But little did she know that we had already talked about that. So those are the things that we were doing, Wendy.
I like it. Roy, do you want to jump in here and talk? Oh, Angie, do you need to jump in before Roy, or?
Unmute her, Clay.
You're quiet. You're muted.
No, I really had a question. I love your comment, Wendy. And I have to be honest, I have not gotten there yet of my need to support my staff who are listening every day to businesses and consumers who are stressed to the max. And I really would love some tips on that if anybody had any. That was it.
I think I want to just jump in real quick, and Roy, will come back to you. I think the key is just being real and being human. You're talking about the importance of transparency in leading your teams. I think that actually, in my opinion, that applies to client and customer relationships as well. So many of us put pressure on ourselves to have this very strong front, like, oh, everything's great, and we think that if we're sort of stone-faced that our clients are going to trust us more because we're stronger and we're, infallible. But right now, everybody is in the same boat. And I think that there is such strength really in the fact that we are all experiencing this crazy anxiety that comes and goes, right? So I think as leaders, we should speak to our, have one of these Zoom calls, and the subject should be just how do we deal with, we know we have our own anxieties, how do we help our customers who are very much in the same boat, engage in these conversations. Don't be afraid to have a conversation and say, oh, how are you doing in all of this? Because I think that some of depending on who our employees are, some of them may be concerned and maybe feel like they have to have this, this very professional front. And I actually think that ironically in this environment would erode trust, because there's such, it's important to lead with humanity, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
And if I could just jump in, I don't know, can you guys hear me? We're like Brenda, we're HR consultants. And so every day my consultants are dealing with concerns and anxiety and questions from our clients. And one of the things, and as I mentioned before, my concern is that is all going to be such a burden on the consultants, right? And if they get overburdened, if they're overstressed, their anxiety levels start getting high, that affects our level of support and customer service for our clients. And so, Angie, I guess to your question, one of the things that I'm making sure that I do every day with them is to, again, just touch base with them to say, what are some of the issues you're faced with? What are some of the things you're dealing with your clients? Let me help you, right? If we don't know the answers, let's get them together. And I think it's important for them to know that they're not on an island by themselves through all of this, right? And that as much as we can to let them know that we are available, we're here to support them. And if it means us jumping in to support them, with the clients and the customer service, I think that's also a good message for them as well.
Thank you. Roy, do you want to take this, Roy? Oh.
Can I just real quick? I appreciate it. This is my first video with you guys. I have an architectural and construction management consulting firm, and we work all over the country and Canada. We're dead. No work. Nobody. Our clients aren't even responding to emails or calling us back. Marriott laid off 2/3 of their workforce. We're in hospitality. My guys are going, what are you going to help? How can you help me? I got nothing. They have nothing. All right. The government has absolutely no support. Unemployment is just ridiculous. You can't even call them. Nobody can get in. You file a claim and then they change the rules. The PPLs are a joke. They filled up immediately. There's no financial resources available. All right. So how do I deal with my consultants to tell them that it's going to be all right? And how do we move forward and without me losing my entire business? So this is what I think this call is all about. It's great supporting the people that you have when you have work, but there's guys like me out there that are completely gone. I mean, and if we're gone, no new construction, no new permits, no new nothing. All right, this is what happened in after the World Trades, right? And architecture took an 80% bath. It took years for us to build up enough more architectural firms to do the permitting and get the new construction going to get the economy going. This is what's going to happen again if we don't have the people that are going to be able to get the economy going. So I came into this to see if anybody had any ideas of how I can help support my consultants, because in another month, I'm not going to have those consultants.
Anybody want to take that? Thank you for your question. I think that's
a real hard one too.
No, but it's very honest. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I can jump in here. First of all, I'm so sorry that you're going through this. It's terrible. It's so hard to have to worry about first, your own business and all of the people that work for you and depend on your business for their livelihood. I'm in awe of your strength and courage as you go through this. So I'm sorry for all of that. I think it's a real question, and I don't know that I have any answers for you at this point, because you're struggling with what everybody's struggling with right now, which is getting through to the government, getting the supports that they're saying are available to people. People are really concerned. All of your employees, rightfully so, don't know how they're going to get their next paycheck or their next meal. And I don't know if you're doing things like you're furloughing, or you just, said, nope, nobody has any work, if you pay benefits or things like that. I mean, there are little things that you might be able to work with them to help them with, like benefits if you offer them, or reaching out to some of your suppliers or providers to get relief right now. I know a lot of companies, ours included, we're reaching out to all of our suppliers and we're saying, hey, help us. We're getting these requests from the people that are our clients. We need your help too. Give us a relief for 60 days, or let us skip the next couple of payments. A lot of our clients who are employers and they provide benefits to their employees are coming and saying, can we just not pay you for the next couple months? And you know what? We're saying, yeah, you can not pay us for the next couple months, because everybody's in this together, and the more we can do for each other, the better it is. So I do think that if there are things like that, even communicating that with the folks that are impacted, that work for you, and letting them know that you're trying everything that you can do to get them additional supports is super helpful for them. Companies are doing things like pay cuts across the board. They're suspending, bonuses, obviously, or 401k matches, or any of those things. They're all steps that companies are taking. Even if the bottom hasn't fallen out like what you're describing, it leaves them a little bit of room for the bottom to keep falling so that they don't have to cut deeper. But unfortunately, nobody's got a crystal ball in this thing, and it's awful not to be able to know what's going to happen 2 months from now.
Yeah, and it's great when you have vendors and all that stuff. Architecture, we really don't have anything except our top end client. I have a REIT that we do hotels for. They just cut 80% of their staff, and they owe us about $500,000, and they ain't gonna pay. They're not gonna pay a penny. So we're 6 months out on our AR that we were waiting for before this happened, and it's dead. So we're basically in the hole $500,000 right now just on one client, and we're not going to see it. It is a disaster for certain businesses, and there's consulting business and a lot of other businesses that are doing very well. My daughter's in the mortgage industry. She's an underwriter. She's working 7 days a week, and they gave her a $10,000 bonus. It's going to happen. So for my employees and for my 1099ers, they're going, well, what can you do for me? Well, we laid off the employees immediately. We got impacted as soon as they closed restaurants and churches. We went dead. We have 4 churches on the board for new builds. They are not building. They're not going forward with contracts. So, when you have $180,000 to $400,000 worth of contracts and they just disappear, you're not going to go back to them and ask them. There's nowhere to go for relief. So it's a tough one on my part. I'm not asking for anybody to give me any solutions. I came on this to listen to see how you guys how other people are handling this situation. We will bounce back. I'm not a quitter. I do have clients in Canada that are looking to get started soon, and when that happens, I'm bringing back everybody, back into the office. So, but I think that that's going to happen quicker than in the United States. So I'm fortunate.
And
again. Go ahead.
And I just want to kind of throw something out to you. I know, like Angela said, there is no crystal ball, right? No one really knows how we're all going to land on the other side of this, how all the companies are going to land on the other side of this. But there are some strategies and techniques that, that you might be able to take a look at and say, okay, if our AR is out 6 months, or if, we have this much in terms of cash flow, what are some of those things, opportunities that might be able to carry us? When I say opportunities, I'm talking about your people, right? And looking at your employees to say, okay, who of that group makes sense that we do need to lay off, and right? And so layoff is more like a termination. versus those that may be your key people that you want to keep engaged. And so, like you said, when you come out on the other side of this, that they're just immediately back on the payroll and they're starting to build that revenue stream for you again, right? So things like that would be helpful as well. I do think it's important that you continue to communicate with all of them to let them know, some of the things that you just shared. We just don't know. I don't have all the answers, but I'm looking at things. I'm looking at our options. We don't want to lose our good people. So we're looking at all of our options. We'll keep you, informed of what's going to be happening. So I think as long as you continue that conversation, I'm sure you are, but as you continue to do that, I think it'll still keep those that are just looking for some information from you a little bit of relief for them. But there's certainly opportunities, I think, that, we could certainly look at and say, okay, what makes sense? How do I keep afloat? What's the talent that I need to really, really keep engaged over the next couple months, as we kind of go on the other side of this or get to the other side.
Rebecca, did you have a comment you wanted to make? Sorry, I know that she just sent me a note.
I did have a comment, and certainly anybody that's doing any type of in-person work is so drastically affected right now. But I think one thing I've heard multiple people say is, we don't know how long this is going to go on for, right? So I'm terming this in the in-between. I think when we start to gradually move out of this, things are going to be different. I know my business will never go back to the way it was before. And what I realized is I need to figure out, what do people need right now? Is it free consulting? Is it free information? Do they just need to talk to me? We're kind of forming in the back of our minds, people don't have 2 months to develop a full-on brand message right now. They need to figure out within a week or two how to shift their strategy and to move really quickly. And so we're coming up with a couple of interim things based upon feedback we've gotten of what people need. But we're also having to think of, what does the landscape look like after, and how can we pivot to that? So my thought would be, you're in this basically awful period of time where, is there anything that you could do right now to either do your network, or is there some wild and crazy idea for you to generate revenue? And what I've been telling people is, pivot and innovate and think of the craziest outside of the box ideas that you never ever would have thought would work before. And again, that's a long shot for a lot of in-person businesses, and I totally get that. But I think the businesses that come up with the craziest ideas and innovate quickly and pivot, come up with stuff that we've never even heard of, I think that's going to help propel you forward. And whatever you can do to be communicating to people and working. So is there something you can do to generate revenue now? And keep those relationships going and keep that communication going, so that when things do start to get better, people remember you and know to think of you. So that would just be my thought is, again, it's in person, it's super challenging, but is there anything you can do? And I do think, like you said, your clients are very quiet right now. I would not hesitate to keep reaching out to them within the context of right now. And whether it's a phone call, whether it's an email, and just to say, hey, we're here for whatever you need, so to build those networks. But, that's what I've been telling people is, think the most wildest outside of the box ideas in this in-between phase. And then also think about, things will look different after. So even if you can't do anything right now, figure out what will everything look like in the context of later. So I hope that's helpful.
Thank you.
Brenda, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just had one other suggestion, and just build on what Rebecca had just said. The other thing that we like to do is ask our team members for their advice and suggestions. As CEOs, we don't have all the answers. We don't know. And so with my team, I'm very honest and say, hey, guys, toss it out there. Let's brainstorm. What are some things that you think we need to do to keep our customers engaged? What are some things what are things that you need to stick around other than pay? Because people don't stick around necessarily for the money. They stick around because they feel engaged. They feel that value. They feel that they're actually contributing to the greater good. And so one of the things I would suggest is with your team members, ask them what would they like to see. Get some ideas for them. Brainstorm. As long as you're connecting with them, whether they're next door to you or 5 or 6 states away, maybe organize some activity similar to this that would allow everyone to talk to you and say, hey, look, I've got an idea. How about we do ABC instead of pay this month? Maybe we do something different. So you'd be amazed at how many ideas people can come up with, because we really don't have all the answers. And that's okay. The more they can tell us, the better.
Yeah,
Hope that helps.
Yeah, I've been doing tele working since '09. So my guys we're seasoned veterans for this video stuff, Skype, Zoom, the whole works. I mean, we actually have our architectural programs are interactive. Everybody's working on the same file remotely. We can see what other people are doing. So that in itself has been awesome because I took that curve many, many years ago. So the impact of having to go to an office has not affected us at all. And my consultants have been with me for many years, and I don't see them going anywhere. It's just the human support of talking to them and assuring them that when I get a job, they're going to get a job. And so what we've implemented, and I don't know if this affects anybody else, what we're doing is once a week, we're taking a specific task in our drafting technology, and we're doing learning seminars and sessions, and we're advancing our technologies, upgrading computer systems and designs to where we're doing 3D animations and trying to get ahead of the curve, so when it does bounce back, we're all on the same page. So so we're working with that. It's just, they're calling me and going, when am I going to work? When am I going to work? And I'm like, hey, nobody's calling me. And they don't call back. You call Marriott corporate headquarters, you won't get anybody. So,
Right.
we'll get through it. I'd just love to hear everybody's, thoughts. And that's why I joined this call. It's all good. My guys have been with me for 20 plus years. They're not going anywhere. Especially some, they're just not going to get a job. When you're 70 years old and you're a senior architect and you're working for me, who's going to hire a 70-year-old architect? It's just not going to happen in the newer firms.
Roy, did you have something you wanted to add to but just again, the initial question was what kind of training and support you might be offering your people during this time to help them manage the anxieties of our customers and clients?
Yes, and thanks, Wendy. I sympathize and empathy with Michael and what he's going through. I think we're all, dealing with some times that are different to us, and the uncertainty. But I think we've all touched on it, the communication and transparency of a lot of things. And I know that my HR team has been sending out tips and like nuggets and motivational little memes and things like that throughout the day to our team, because some of them work on site, some of them don't. So the ones that aren't on site and work from home, we do utilize a lot of training to do things within the team, and we've sent out messages, about different time management training, that we have, especially telling people to put, have a schedule if you're working at home, how that schedule would incorporate, your kids and doing, Common Core math and, software development and things like that. And I mean, I'm pretty sure we all cringed at that if you had to deal with it in some type of way. But we've been doing a lot of those, trying to, help them with their time management and things of that nature at home, because you can get sidetracked, if your kids need something or whatever. So we've been utilizing a lot of back and forth communication via Teams and our Microsoft tools to utilize our technology to keep our people engaged. We're actually planning a happy hour, a virtual happy hour and things like that to keep the team, engaged and things like. And I think that's going to really, bring us in, and that way they can ask management questions. They can see management on video and things like that. That hey, we're going through this just like you are, and if we can show a little empathy that hey, we're struggling, we don't understand, and we're uncertain of some things just like you are. We're trying to get the answers, and as long as they know that we're trying to get the answers, I think that kills a lot of that anxiety up front. And that strengthens their morale and things, as I mentioned earlier.
Thanks, Roy. Anybody else want to add anything to that? Okay. Anybody else have any other questions for this wonderful group that we have, or anybody else want to throw any other ideas out there about ways that we can continue to build trust with our employees during this difficult time? Nope. Looks like Angie, we're ending a little early, which is so everybody can get off to their busy day of managing children, animals, business, and themselves. Thanks everybody for joining. This was a great conversation. And Angie, I think you are going to provide this recording, yes, to members, which I think would be super useful for people to see this in their own time. These are great questions that came up, and I appreciate the honesty and the candor. And I think if we keep this going even past COVID, it's really good for the business community.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you all so much. Stay safe.
Thank you.
And thanks
Thank
for
you.
everything.
Thank you.
Bye.